Hey guys, this is Pierre again, and today we are actually on episode number 64, and we're continuing on the Kingdom series. Specifically today, we're talking about why seek the kingdom, right? Again, we've heard so much about this kingdom, and in the last episode, I spoke about it, and specifically talking about this gospel of the kingdom. But now that we've heard the good news, let's see it in action. And this is why the question to you today is, why should I seek the kingdom? Why? After all, I have my own job, I have my own business, I can do my own thing, Why should I follow the way that God prescribes in terms of doing things His way, right? Instead of doing things my way? What's the big deal about that? So I want to take you to a scene here. After the death of John the Baptist, of course, he was the kind of prophet that had no problem speaking his mind. And ultimately, Herod liked him because he liked how John was very much on top of the word, and John would speak his mind. And of course, Herod put him in prison because one time he told Herod, look, it's not right for you to marry your brother's wife. You know what I'm saying? So ultimately, that made Herod mad and he put John in prison. But eventually we know that Herod's wife, Herodias, had her daughter dance for Herod once, and Herod wanted to give the girl up to half of his kingdom. So eventually, the dance she did pleased Herod so much that he told the girl, you could have anything up to half of my kingdom. And the girl went to her mother and asked, what should I ask for? And the mother, of course, who hated John the Baptist, said, ask for the head of John the Baptist on a platter. And of course, since the king had taken an oath, right, the word of a king, he can't back out of his word. And you see that throughout the Bible. And so he was forced to do it. So now, when news came to Jesus that Herod was dead, I'm sorry, not Herod, rather, when news came to Jesus that his cousin, John the Baptist, had been decapitated, and his disciples, meaning John's disciples, had buried John, they went to Jesus and told him. Jesus went to a solitary place, right? He took a boat and he went somewhere all by himself. And eventually, by the time he got off the boat and got to another place on shore, the people had followed him. And of course, he was with his disciples. And the disciples, now this is in Matthew chapter 14, and I'm going here from verses 13 to 21. And we're going to see here the crowd follows him, and eventually he heals their sick. Now, this is a man that you can say is grieving. He's grieving the death of his cousin. But yet, here's the power of God's kingdom. Even in his grief, Jesus can still bring solace to somebody. He can still heal the sick. And that's amazing because this man, wherever he went, the kingdom followed him, meaning the impact that he had wherever he went, he spread that kingdom that he preached. You saw the effect of it, the impact of it. And that came through the healing that he brought forth to those folks. So eventually it was getting late, and his disciples told him, look, let's let go of the people now, send them home so they can get food in the villages. And he said, no, you feed them. And they're like, look, and of course you're going to have to go to the book of John to see how funny this conversation was. But at least in Matthew, he told them, you feed them. And they were like, we don't have the money with which to feed such a crowd, Jesus. And so Jesus asked them, so what do you have? Because you see, this is the thing you have to understand about the kingdom. Why Jesus would tell you in Matthew 6:33 to seek first the kingdom, as opposed to worry about what you're going to eat, what you're going to wear, where you're going to live. Is there going to be a roof over your head? The world, right? Those who do not know the Lord, they worry about all these things. But this is an opportunity for you not to worry, because the kingdom will take care of you. There's a saying that goes like this: where God sends you, He will provide for you, right? Because He's the one who sent you. So He's responsible for the provision. But what I want you to see is that the kingdom is more than just mere provision. You see, in the wilderness, when the Israelites were in the wilderness, God provided for them. He gave them shoes that never wore out, right? And they had manna every day. There was not a day that He did not give them food, that He did not provide for them. He is the provider, Jehovah Jireh. That's what Abraham learned. But beyond provider, He's also El Shaddai, the more than enough God. And here we see this with Jesus in terms of more than enough. This crowd was with him. The disciples literally were like pushing him, send the people home, Jesus. But he said, no, we're not going to do that. Let's feed them. And so they found 7 loaves of bread and some fish. And Jesus, of course, he did what he did best. He prayed over it. He spoke a blessing over it, and the food multiplied. He gave it to his disciples, and they gave it to the people. And they fed 5,000 men plus women and children, right? So this food fed 5,000. And then at the end of it, there were 12 baskets left over. Now, there's one part of the story here that I've spoken that is wrong. This is in Matthew 14. The 7 loaves come in Matthew 15. This is where he fed the 5,000. This is where he had 5 loaves and 2 fish from a little boy that had those 5 loaves and 2 fish. And you can find that same story in the book of John as well. So here's the point. The point is he fed 5,000 men plus women and children. But here's the part beyond provision. So that crowd was provided for. But here comes El Shaddai, because Jesus says, when you see me, you see the Father, right? And that's what he told Philip. Have you been so long with me and you still don't recognize the Father? Come on, Philip. And so El Shaddai comes in this. After everybody ate, there were leftovers. The little boy that gave his 2-piece fish dinner, right? He went home with 12 baskets of fish and bread. This is the God we serve. He's always going to give you more than enough. And of course, if you are in a position where you're stuck and you're asking God to help, don't just ask for just enough for you. There are other people you are meant to bless, to be a blessing to. And matter of fact, that is the mandate that he gave Abraham. You are blessed to be a blessing. And so if God is going to provide for you, he's going to provide more than enough. And this is something that we have to retrain our mind. Again, this is why this is time to transform your mind, right? Romans 12:1 and 12:2, not only be a living sacrifice, meaning pick up your own cross, but now in 12:2, renew your mind with the word. And so this renewal of your mind will bring you to a place where you can accept the abundant provision, the more than enough provision, El Shaddai, as we would call him, right? You don't need no sugar daddy. He's your El Shaddai, and he's the real sugar daddy. There is none else like him. So today I want you to walk away from this lesson thinking, what am I making as my provider? Who is my provider? Is it my own strength, right? Or did I forget the Lord, my provider? And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what situation you're going through. Even if it's tough for you to be in a moment to give right now to your local church or to whatever work you give to, try anyway. Sow something anyway, because when you sow, God promises he will at least repay, and beyond that, he will multiply it, and he will bring others to give back to you and give even more into your bosom. So this is the word for today. If you're watching, of course, here on YouTube, go ahead, like and subscribe. But as always, ask any questions, make any comments. I look forward to having a discussion with you, and more importantly, just to encourage you, do not get stuck. On the next episodes, we're going to talk more about finances in the kingdom. And we're going to talk more about what I brought up earlier, the 4,000 that he fed. Again, we're going to see more of that super abundance, that El Shaddai attribute of God working its way through our Lord Jesus Christ himself. Enjoy. I'll see you on the next episode. Bye now.